Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast here to tell you about Michelob Ultra Courtside. It's getting fans closer to the NBA with a chance to win prizes like courtside seats, a trip to All-Star Weekend, and much more. Check it out at MichelobUltra.com/courtside. Michelob Ultra Superior Access, Courtside 24-25 sweepstakes, no purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 and up. Begins on October 1st, 2024, ends July 1st, 2025. Multiple entry periods. Visit MichelobUltra.com/courtside for free entry deadlines, and official rules. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.
Hey, Giants fans, this is Chris Franklin from NJ Advanced Media, and welcome to Talk is Cheap Podcast, the show where we discuss all things related to the New York Giants. Now, before we begin, I wanted to remind you that you can read our content on NJ.com/Giants and make sure to bookmark that to get the latest Giants news and analysis. Well, we hope you all enjoyed your Thanksgiving. I'm pretty sure that people, if you're a Giants fan, it wasn't the best one in terms of the football team. Well, it depends on the way you look at it, because you could have gotten yourself with a better draft pick, or just the fact that the team lost and then probably upset your stomach, along with some people's store food. Anywho, we're going to get more into that Thanksgiving, but today we got Ryan Novozinsky here to talk about this latest game and looking toward the future as well too, which includes Sunday's game against the New Orleans Saints. Ryan, how was your Thanksgiving, man?
Well, other than the football, it was great. That's all I'm going to say. That was the most boring, close game, because it was like so fake close. You know what I mean? Like, it was, first of all, it already feels like it was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But that was the most fraudulent kind of close game, 7-point win for the Cowboys ever, because it felt like a blowout. And I was writing it as such, and then they get this, Fakakta kind of drive towards the end where they actually put up a fight. But that's been like every Giants game this year. It's kind of annoying. It's like the Giants are not valuing what we do as sports writers, in their in game on the product on the field, kind of, so to speak. So obviously, that we're not expecting them to do that, but it would be nice some weeks for them to cooperate with how we have to run our business here.
Yeah, and I'm working this reference up, and I know when you look at our demo, it's not usually this reference is not going to be up there. But I was watching the movie with my godkids, The Incredibles. At the end, when they're like, "Okay, Dash, okay," he falls back behind, and the lady like, "Oh, close second, close second, close second," and then it's like they want to go on this torrid run all of a sudden for no apparent reason. Like, and then I'm starting like, they're going to mess this thing up, and if they
Yeah.
mess around and win this game, burp, and it's going to be great on that. But yeah, we'll get more into that. As you mentioned, the 27-20 loss to the Cowboys now puts the Giants in it still keeps them in the cellar in the NFC East by a lot, but also keeps them in the running for a draft pick. We'll get to that in a sec. But we're going to start out with a little bit of the game and what has to do with on this road to Tankathon for the rest of the season. You look at the way Drew Lock played, and the numbers don't stand out or anything. It's not like a Jameis Winston from Monday Night Football. Lock completed 21 of his 32 passes for 178 yards, no touchdowns, and he did have that one interception. Now, Ryan, I want to ask you this. You saw the way he played. DeVito was supposed to be in that spot, but he's obviously hurt. Should the Giants stick with Drew Lock as a starting quarterback for the rest of the season, or should they go back to DeVito when he's completely healthy?
Should they go back to Drew Lock? Yes, they should. Will they? Probably not, because every single decision the Giants make seems to be the wrong one this year. And I mean that. Like, this is one of those things where I have this inkling in my mind where I think they're going to go back to DeVito, no matter what they saw from Lock. At least Lock gave them a chance, right? DeVito starts and he does. It obviously doesn't go well. They lose 30-7 to the Bucks. Not necessarily all the way on DeVito, but either way, let's just look at it. Let's call a spade a spade. I mean, you have a 7-point loss against the Cowboys with Locke as your starter. You have a 23-point loss with DeVito as your starter. That should be the answer right there. Giants players, ownership, as much as fans might not want them to, they want to win, right? So I think that if that's your formula, if that's kind of your what your end game is, then yes, Drew Lock should be the starter, based purely on nothing else. But I understand that DeVito might be a little more poised, and with Lock there might be a little more of a wild card factor there. But I don't know, man. Sometimes you need that wild card factor when it comes to these quarterbacks, man, because neither of them are the future. It really doesn't. This decision, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really matter. Um, So I don't see why you wouldn't go with the more fun option, right? Like the guy that obviously, aside from fun, like hell, screw that. Like let's just call it like it is. Like he got you closer to a win. They were a couple plays away from potentially winning that game. And how great was it on the opening drive? How he almost gets that touchdown. It ended up being Tyron Tracy punched it in, but he has that 29-yard rush, right? And then the very next drive, you get the interception to Overshown there. That perfectly encapsulates who Drew Lock is as a player. And I'm sorry, with the Giants, the rest of this schedule, some games here and there, like the Saints game, maybe the Colts game, depending on how they play down the stretch here. And hey, maybe you even get the Falcons. Some of these games are not only are they coin flips, they're lopsided towards the other team. Obviously, they're probably not going to beat the Eagles, barring unless they bench all their starters in the last week, and even then, um, they're not going to be the Ravens. They're not going to beat a lot of these teams. They don't have chances. So why not start Locke, the guy that gave you the actual chance, right? If nothing else, if he's the opening drive version of Locke that had that 30-yard rush, you keep the players happy, you get the wins, um, or at least you're showing that you're putting the quarterback that gives you the best chance to win. And if he's that second drive Locke, then hey man, you get closer to that first pick. Either way, it's a win-win.
I look at it this way. I know the whole DeVito thing, because now you're going to watch, okay, is everybody going to follow what Baker did and try to mock him a little bit and the whole celebration? And it's a fun, lighthearted story. You got this kid from the area who's still playing the quarterback for the New York Giants. I think when you look at it, you're right about this. I think when you put in Drew Lock, I think you give yourself a better evaluation process to see what you have in terms of the offense, because we all know when Daniel Jones was in there, you didn't really get that, but maybe you get that with Drew Lock. Maybe he has a new feel. Being a backup, it takes about a couple games before you truly get a good sense of feeling comfortable at the spot. And Lock, to me, Lock is a decent backup. And whether he was before with the Broncos was that situation, he you look at the Seahawks, he wasn't going to unseat Geno Smith, but he's a competent backup and he can at least move the ball down the field. Now my argument is not helped by looking at what happened at Thanksgiving, but I think he can do that. And you need to find out with this offense. I think you look at this team, whoever's going to take over for this knows they have some pieces on defense. Right now, offensively, you got Tracy and you got Neighbors. That's it. That's really what you really have. It's all you know. So you got to see what you have to do that. So I hope, for their sakes, let Drew give Drew. All we're saying is give Drew Lock a chance. I think that's the best way to go about it. But I don't know. I'm at a loss of words with this offense right now. Looking at what they're trying to do, and the concepts and everything.
You and me
Daniel's
both,
fighting for
man,
his
and
life.
it's my job to write about this team, so I shouldn't be at a loss for words about this offense.
It's like they need to change their approach. Period. I don't know. They have like if Builder, you got a piece of Trace. I just look at it as like run, become a running team. Like the way that we're seeing right now, this league is going with this whole too high safety with and teams trying to make you go methodically down the field. You need a quarterback who's patient, who's accurate, and you need a run game to assist that because, as we've seen with, so I know I was saying like this is like saying Beetlejuice, but seeing with Saquon Barkley, seeing with Derrick Henry, seeing with everything else, you need to methodically move the ball down the field. And the Giants don't have they have a piece there, just build around it, but they don't settle with the run. And sorry, I got on a tangent. It just frustrates me whenever I see this Giants offense operate. I don't know.
I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you. No, it's so true. There's no. Not only do they not have an identity, even when we're talking week 2, which seemed like they were limited back then, but even back then when there was a shot, right? You didn't know what direction this kind of was going to go. You kind of knew, right? Like you knew that it's probably not going to go the way of the Giants, but even back then there was no identity for this offense. And you had the players where you could kind of have that you know going against being the counter towards a lot, like you said, like these two eye shell kind of defenses, right? Like that, where they're expecting the pass. You had a mobile quarterback and a darn good rookie running back in Tyron Tracy. Why not lean into more of that? I know you want Neighbors, you want to get them involved, and that's fine. You could do that. You could have done that, and you did do that. But why not mix that a little bit more with the run game, man? And I mean, this is kind of going back, weeks and weeks and weeks, but man, it's just another just head scratching thing for this Giants team, man. I don't know. This is bad. This is bad.
Yeah, it is. Whoever's eventually going to be the new head coach, if it's an offensive mind, if it's an offensive minded head coach, or if it's or they hire one OC and they get somebody else defense, like if say they go after Vrabel, he decides to come here, which, but if he say do that and get an OC, they need to just hire somebody from the Shanahan tree. I know it's played out and so much you see with Mike McDaniel and everybody else but the use of the motion and the use of the reliance on the run game, and you're probably going to have a mobile quarterback when you draft one.
Hire a
Use it.
janitor that worked under Shanahan for all I care. Like, seriously, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, then the janitor's probably in D3 right now. All of a sudden, like, hey, what's up? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
D2, Division 3, Division 2 guy, and next head coach, hot coaching candidate. Got to watch this guy. Oh. But speaking of the future and future quarterbacks, as we mentioned earlier, Giants currently possess the third overall pick right now. The Jacksonville Jaguars and Las Vegas Raiders. They both also have a 2-10 record, but by virtue of the strength of schedule, the Jacksonville Jaguars have the first pick with the Raiders second, Giants third. Ryan, do you think the Giants have when they're committed to the tank, or they should commit to the tank? Do you think they'll eventually wind up with a number one pick, or if not, where do you think they fall into this? And do you think they mess up and fall further down the draft board?
The question should never be, should the Giants commit to the tank? In a season like this, they absolutely should, but they absolutely will not. You know how it is. I think that this Giants team, they have 2 wins right now. They're 2-10. They pretty much, like, I think a lot of these other teams, right? I think does Jacksonville? I think the Jaguars play the Raiders. I believe. I could be wrong. They do. So they play them on December 22nd. That's going to be awesome, by the way. They have a really solid path here to getting to that number one pick. But as with every time that this team is within striking distance, it always seems like they just mess it up right at the last minute. I think the Giants are going to lose all of these games, and then somehow, some way, the Eagles, they're going to find a way to win that game in the final week of the season. I just have and it's going to mess them up. It's going to drop them to the second pick. And the Raiders seem to understand the assignment, like they know how they're playing hard, but also, they just mess up right in the right way to lose. So I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to mess up right in the nick of time, and it's going to screw them out of the first pick. And it's going to go to the Raiders, and they're going to get the number 2 quarterback in this draft, right? Now, I think the Raiders, it kind of seems like they're a team that would pick Shador, right? They would. It doesn't seem like, it seems like a guy that would sell tickets for them, but I do think Cam Ward is a little better. So maybe that turns out well for the Giants, and you let the Raiders, who don't have a good draft history at all, pick the top guy, and you let the other guy kind of fall in your lap. But in terms of having that lottery ticket at number 1, I just have a feeling that the Giants are just gonna mess it up somehow, man. My prediction is the Eagles, but that's just me.
You know what? You kind of took mine. There's two opportunities I think where they lose this. They may win both for all we know too. There's no way they're beating the Ravens. There's no way they're beating the Falcons. And there's no way they're beating the Colts. I think the Colts will still be fighting for a wild card spot at that time.
True.
There's nothing to that. I look at this week's game coming up against the Saints as a prime possibility because you got a dome team traveling up north and that cold, windy weather, and you got Carr, and we know Carr is like, ugh. And you got all these guys. I just look at that Saints team will fold when it's necessary. I think I can see the Giants winning that game. But you mentioned the Eagles game, and that's the prime one because if we see it, they're probably going to put the Lions that we're balanced. They're probably going to put the Lions and the Eagles in the same window, maybe that 4:00 window, and then which Eagles Giants at that point. Why are you in the 4:00 window?
Exactly.
But for the right for number 1 seed. I can see them going back and forth. The Eagles look at that score, and I think the Lions have the Vikings, maybe. Or I
Mhm.
forget who it is. I could see them putting that up there, and then when the Lions are beating the Vikings, who are at home, yeah, I guess it's all like they pull it. And Kenny Pickett has not looked good. I'm sorry, Kenny Pickett. I have no faith in Kenny Pickett, even if they're a tie game. I see the Giants winning that game, and everybody's gonna go. Is that awkward? Where yeah, we won. All right, great. Oh wait, we won. Oh,
It's
great.
like, and I know he hasn't panned out quite as much as people want him to, but it's like when the Jets won, right? And it cost them Trevor Lawrence. Like that, it would have a similar vibe to that. Although Lawrence was seen as kind of that generational prospect, and obviously hasn't panned out that way. And it doesn't seem like there's a generational prospect in this draft. Either way, right? It's just one of those things that it feels so Giants to lose, and it's, especially against this Eagles team that would almost be pitying them by not playing Barkley and obviously resting their starters, which is the smart thing to do. But it would just be so Giants, man, for them to to win that game. Only like you said, man, to look at it at the end and say, "Oh yeah, great, we won," but holy crap, why do we do that?
It's so bad. Now, I want to throw this hypothetical at you right now, just the way using, by the way, the draft order is right now. And say the Giants do their job and they somehow wind up at number 2. I'll give them 2. I think Jacksonville's just as much as Doug Peterson, he has a Super Bowl. I think this year's just a dumpster fire, and I think he's just playing out the strings until he's let go. Say they finish number 2, and if by some miracle Joe Shane's still here, but probably a new GM is at there, and you get a call from, say, the Carolina Panthers, who currently are right now at number 5, would you be? If they say, you know what? No, Ryan. Congratulations, you're the new GM. You're hired. The
Amazing.
Giants hired you. Yeah, good job, Ryan. I'm going to give you 3 first-round picks. So you get the first-round pick this year. Actually, you know what? No, I'll give you. Yeah, I'll give you 2. First-round pick next year, a second-round pick this year, a first-round pick next year, and a third in the following year. Are you willing to drop back from 2 to 5 and get your quarterback then, or do you feel like this is a draft where you need to stay pat?
I'll tell you what, if especially if the Panthers offer me that, we'll just say it. Any team offers me a package like that, I am absolutely taking it. I do not like this quarterback class at all. I can be talked into Cam Ward, get me on a good day, and I can be talked into Shador, but that's it, right? I am very pro, and I know we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but I am kind of starting to lean towards maybe the Giants should kind of get a bridge guy and keep them afloat. I know that is not the popular opinion right now among the fan base, and that's fine. And let's be real, they probably won't do that at all. I'm very pro get drafting the other position needs because there's a lot of position needs on this team, right? Number one corner. There's still some gaps on the offensive line. You can kind of fine tune there. Um, let's see, the number 2 receiver, right? Or depending on who it is, maybe number 1 receiver. Although I'm still high on Neighbors, despite his drops of late. Um, Listen, I'm very much taking that package, right? If you can, I would take less, than that. I don't know that the Panthers would necessarily make the same mistake that they did, with that trade package again, kind of trading up for a quarterback, for the number 1 or number 2 pick. And not to say they would trade up for a quarterback, but you know, uh, judging on how that kind of panned out. Although Bryce Young looks good lately, but I like. I'm very much okay. If you're in a rebuild, stockpile these picks, man. Like just do it like the Bears. I know the Bears this season they're 4-8. They're not what they wanted to be. But you put a good coach in Chicago, that Bears team is good. I'm sorry, they are. Put a good coach and a couple more better offensive linemen, then that's a good team. And they built that team through some of these trades, right? I think they're one of the teams that can bounce back, right, go from worst to first again, next year kind of thing. The Giants, I don't know if they can have that same rise, but they could at least go from bad, really, really bad to respectable levels next year if they pull off a trade like that. And it gets them another lottery ticket, right? It gets them another ticket to these what are essentially lottery tickets in these quarterback drafts, because it's really a draft and suck kind of league, and once you get in that cycle, it's not a good thing. But they can break out by having more of these lottery tickets. They just need a GM that will be able to hit on them, and Shane has not been able to do that. And he's had the chance with 2 top 10 picks before. Let's not forget.
Yeah, it's not boding well. I'm not feeling that one too. And
Nope.
you're right. I know everybody is saying Cam Ward this, Cam Ward, he's the next one. I have my doubts. I see a lot of good in him. There's some things he needs to be refined, and I think he really needs a good quarterback-minded offensive coach in terms of getting him in the right system to use him. And Shedeur Sanders, I don't think Deion's going to want him to go to New York. I think he's going to. I know media market-wise it makes sense, but I think he wants him to go somewhere else. I would be surprised if he wants him to go to Dallas and he starts trying to pull the Archie Manning type role, saying my son's not going to play for one of my team that Evan too. So yeah, I do whatever draft that they need, like as you mentioned, they need as many picks as possible. Trading down is the best solution if they can. I just this I look at the board as it's forming early. This is when and I mentioned was pre-combine, pre-workouts, pre-looking at all this stuff.
It's not good, man.
And even next and talking to a couple of people, they say 2026, it ain't looking that great either.
No.
It ain't looking great either. So
Like, go get like Jackson Dart or like Jalen Milroe down in the draft, and then see if you got something there. Like, I'm not saying don't take a quarterback at all this year. You have to. At some point, you have to take a quarterback this year, right? But go look at one of those guys. These top guys, it just doesn't seem like it's worth the investment this year. And again, that is so wishful thinking. They are absolutely taking a quarterback. There is no doubt in my mind. But is it smart? I don't think it is.
no, not at all. Now, okay, speaking of quarterbacks, and we're talking about next year in the draft and everything, you wrote a piece, an interesting name as a potential bridge quarterback. Why do you think Kirk Cousins is a good option to bring up here to New York?
Yes, I got a lot of angry comments about this today. Listen.
Welcome to the beat.
Exactly. I look around at these bridge quarterback options, and of course, like Jameis, especially after last night, like that is the fun one. That would be awesome, and especially you'd be a quote machine, right? But I look at it and I'm like, I don't know if this is right for me to think or not. It probably isn't. I look at Kirk Cousins and I see the Kirk Cousins that tossed 500 yards earlier in the season, right? Was it the Chiefs? I think he did that against. It was a good team he did that against. I look at Kirk Cousins and I see a guy that ranks 5th in passing yards this season. I look at Kirk Cousins and I see not Daniel Jones. I see not Drew Lock. I see not Tommy DeVito. And I see a guy that, quite frankly, it's wishful thinking that the Giants are going to go from worst to first next year. As they have some pieces. There's no doubt about that. But you look at a guy like Kirk Cousins, and you if you're the Giants right now, you don't need to go again from worst to first. You need to go from worst to respectable, right? So in order to do that, we talk about these quarterback prospects, right? We talk about Cam Ward, we talk about Shedeur. They might not be ready to go right away. Like, we talk about how weak this class is. So you want to give them time to cook? Get a motivated Kirk Cousins, who you can sever ties with after a year because he doesn't have guaranteed money after 2025, and that's not that bad. And let's be real, his trade value is at an all-time low right now. I don't think that it's going to cost much to get you Kirk Cousins, even though that is a very valuable position. That's why I'm pro Kirk Cousins. I know that he sucked lately. I completely acknowledge that. He threw 4 picks the other day. That's not good. But I've seen some bad football over the past couple weeks, Chris, and I'm ready for anybody that isn't named Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock, or Daniel Jones.
That's not a bad name, I get your reason. I can see that. See, I look at it. I don't. Brissett is going to want I think Brissett has earned the right, especially the role he's played. He's going to be one of the top, I think, used a lot with one of these teams that draft a quarterback. He's going to come in like $8-9 million.
Exactly.
Would the Giants do that? I don't know. I look at Justin Fields. I don't know if he wants to come. He still wants a starting job, and to tell him he's a bridge. He's still very young. He's only 26, and to tell him that, hey, yeah, we want you to be a bridge. He'll look at you and go, "Thank you for the opportunity." Almost like a Marshawn. I appreciate the question. And he's going to look elsewhere to try to start somewhere else because he thinks that. I know this name sounds like a curse word, depending that Giants have seen him before previously. He's 33 years old now, which I can't believe he's 33 years old. But yeah, he's looking for a chance to at least start for a time being to prove himself. Why not Carson Wentz? Why not a guy he's sat there behind Andy Reid who's learned behind him? We saw what happened with Nick Foles when he learned from Andy Reid. He goes elsewhere. Backup quarterbacks elsewhere go that. He tell him, hey, listen, you want to start? You can start for a few games. We're going to give the reins over to this guy. You try to teach him something. Why not him? Why not? You're not getting. Why not Taylor Heineke? I mean, I think you better with guys like that in order to lead that. Jameis, I would love for life. You missed right. I would love to see Jameis Winston in the New York market because I think it'll be extremely entertaining.
Dude, you would have to change beats. You would have to come over to us.
It'd be very, very, very interesting. And not to say to mention, like you'll get the interceptions because he's just he'll sling the ball around, but he'll put you in positions to win. And if you had a guy like him, if he put a performance like last year, I think like last night, I know he's two pick sixes, but you put him in this offense, you give him Malik Neighbors. You saw what he did with Jerry Jeudy. I think Malik Neighbors is better than Jerry Jeudy for sure. Put him in that offense with that, and look what you're doing now. And you got something cooking there. So
I've always said it like this: Jameis Winston is like Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito. That's just bad, right? Jameis Winston is fun bad, you know? Like you at least have fun. Like I would look forward to coming to work all the time. Not to say that I don't. But if Jameis Winston was, if there was the prospect of interviewing him all the time, that'd be fun.
Yeah. And it's the holiday season, so everybody's making those calendars now, and you have the quotes like every day. You'd literally get 365 interesting quotes from Jameis Winston. Hey, you have a side business there too. Why not? Hey,
exactly.
It'd be perfect for that in terms of there. Well, we do have to actually talk about a game.
Oh, true, right.
there actually is a game we have to talk to. It's the Saints. They're in the predicament the same Giants is. They're not winning. They're not winning the NFC South. Taysom Hill, they're one of their main offensive weapons. He's pretty much done for the year. He is done for not pretty much. He is done for the year. Not that many offensive weapons they have as well too. Defensively, you can still hang a hand on that. What the heck should we be watching in this game besides who should lose this game at all?
Oh, dude, I don't even know. No, I'm joking. I guess you kind of want to see just what this Saints team is, right? Like I think they won. They were 2-1 after they're 2-1 under Darren Rizzi now, which that's solid. I mean, obviously, they were a team that after that Carolina loss, they sounded distraught, right? So they're obviously building some momentum. They're getting the post coach firing kind of sugar high, whatever. And Darren Rizzi's a Jersey guy, so I'm excited I'm actually kind of excited to see what this Saints team looks like because they were remember the first couple weeks of the season, Chris, like we were looking at this Clint Kubiak, like, geez, like this is a guy that's gonna command a head coaching job someday. Like he's turned this thing around or whatever. But obviously it hasn't necessarily panned out as they wanted. Look, I think that this Giants team is definitely battered right now. You got no Dex the rest of the season. You got no Theo Johnson the rest of the season. The only thing I'm interested in seeing as far as the Giants go, because the Saints, the storylines kind of write themselves, right? You want to see what the new coach looks like. You want to see what Derek Carr, like, you want to see the tank ramifications of this game. For the Giants, I mean, how much of a fight do they put up? Because last week, when it was trending towards blowout territory for the Giants against the Cowboys, it was like, oh man, like Daboll might be fired right now. But then they had that last drive, and I would argue that kind of like saved his job, right? Like that could have been a Black Friday firing for Dayball had they gotten blown out. If they don't put up a fight against this very bad Saints team, and let's not forget they are very bad, if they don't put up at least a fight against them, then this might be one of those. It might be another thing where me and Daryl are looking around like, is this the day? Or is our life about to be turned upside down because we have to now do a new coach story? Whatever. All of that's to say, if they don't fight, again, that's where the coaching question would come in. If they do, that's what I'll be watching. If how much of a fight the Giants put up with all these injuries and all this lost season in hand, that's what I'm looking for. The Giants need to at least show a fight against the Saints. Whether they win or not is not even the question anymore. Did they put up a fight? Did they have a chance to win down the stretch? That's as kind of pathetic as it is, that's what John Mara is going to be looking at.
Yeah, it's really bad. And if this was a actual game, it was like, oh wait, I can't wait to see Alvin Kamara and how this defense stops him. Or basically, up at this point now, I'm just see how many sacks Brian Burns can ring up now that
Yeah.
everybody's going to be focused on him because Lawrence is gone. And
Yeah.
you look at Fuaga, and like seeing Burns versus Fuaga, and with the Saints taking him, I liked him coming out of the draft this year. I thought he was going to be a really good guy, a really good player. He's developing to that. Penning, still a young guy, kind of dirty. I think some of his I've watched not just the Eagles game, but like overall, I've seen some things that kind of has me making him think like the old school John Runyon type guy. That wow, if he's on, like he's one of those guys where you look, if he's on your team, you love him. If he's not on your team, you just want to see this guy like get thrown out But so I want to see how Burns reacts to that because Penning's going to take a couple. If when he lines up on that side, Penning's going to take a couple shots at him, and I want to see if Burns can keep his cool when going against that, and B, can he take advantage of those sacks and basically get Derek Carr thinking a little bit more and try to prolong this game and keep this game close for a while. Otherwise, yeah, it's just it. And then he also, besides whoever starts, I want to see how they do it and help it. And Malik Neighbors, I think this is a big game for him in terms of not just he seems like a confident guy, but drops are one of those things where if you keep them going, they keep getting prolonged and they start to creep up in your mind, and that can start to snowball a little bit. You don't want to get that thing. Oh, he's got his hands aren't reliable, creepy hands, and going into the next season. So, yeah, that's another thing. I think this is another reason why this might be the things to look for. But yeah, I hope, and everybody else, I hope whoever watches this game, you're a trooper. Especially
Dude,
going
why?
out this way.
Why? Why would you do that to yourself?
Hey, I'll say this at the very least, if you don't watch the game, make sure to read Ryan's work and read Daryl Slater's work as well too, because they'll have every angle covered in terms of that game. And as Ryan, I thank you as always for coming on, man. It's always great talking to you. Are you have anything that we should be on the lookout for this week?
Not necessarily this week. Just keep subscribing, keep looking. Daryl's got something big in the pipeline coming down here about just this quarterback class, everything like that. What's going on with it? Whether Dayball and Co should get a shot at having their own quarterback. All that good stuff. Maybe all that bad stuff on NJ.com.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Well, thank you very much. I want to thank everybody else that's listening to Talk Is Cheap podcast right now. We'll have another new episode next week with Daryl and we'll talk about this game, this Saints Giants game, as well as everything else going on there. We'll be on Coach Firing Watch again with Dable as well too, but we'll have everything, every angle covered for that. So for Ryan, I'm Chris. Everybody have a good day. See ya.